What is up, my guys? Welcome back to another video. Where today, we are going to be doing some Blue Letter Bible again. We're gonna be doing the oh jeez, the what do you call it again? 16th chapter of Genesis. Hold on, I forgot to upload this video, which you're about to see on it. Uh, Fortnite funny moment. Enjoy. Alright. Publish. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're going to do chapter 16 of Genesis. Let's learn some about Jesus, boys. Alright, now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. And she had an Egyptian maidservant whose name was Hagar. So Sarai said to Abraham, "See now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go in to my maid. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her." Now, no, I am a little bit sick, so I am going to keep this one chapter as well. All right. And Abram heeded the voice of Sarah. So basically, what Abraham's doing is basically having babies with their maid, because not having babies with Sarai. Now Sarai told him to do this. He still shouldn't do it, but anyway. Then Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So he went to he went into Hagar, and she conceived, had the baby. And when she saw that he had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai started hating Hagar when she had her baby. Sarah said to Abram, "My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between you and me." I don't exactly know what that means, but alright. And Abram said to Sarai, "Indeed, your maid is in your hand to do with her as I please." Where were we? And when Sarai dealt harshly with her, she fled from her presence. So Sarai got a little bit mad, and she just and Hagar just went. She just fled. Now the angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur, and he said, "Hagar, Sarai's maid, where have you come from? Where are you going?" She said, "I am fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hand." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "I will multiply your descendants exceedingly, so that they will not be counted for a multitude." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are with child, and you shall bear a son." I guess conceived means like the baby's in her womb. "And you shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. He shall be a wild man, his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren." Then she called the name of the Lord and spoke to her, "You are the God who sees." For she said, "I have also here seen him who sees me." Therefore the well was called Beer Lahai. Observe, it is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abraham. And that is the story of Abraham's son, but this has only been 5 minutes, so I guess I may as well do another. Uh, and when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me and be blameless. Alright? So this is talking to Abraham now. And I will make my covenant between you and me, and you will multiply exceedingly. So now he's saying, you and Sarah are going to have a lot of babies now. Well, one, and then he'll have babies. That's what it means. And Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you. You shall be a father of many nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you father of many nations. I'll make you exceedingly fruitful, and I'll make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. I just want to check something real quick, guys. Alright. Checking something real quick, guys. Sorry about that. Alright, where were we? I'll make you exceedingly fruitful, and I'll make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after your generations, after you and their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be God to you and your descendants after you. Now Abraham found favor in the eyes of God. So what's going on with Abraham is the father. He's like he's basically the father of the Jews. The Jews were God's chosen people, and a lot of kings like David, and he's a descendant of many people. I mean, we are descendants of him. I'm so, and I will. Where was I? And I'll establish my covenant between me and your descendant. Yeah, I already said that. Also, I give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are strong, the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, As for you, you shall keep my covenant, and you and your descendants after you, uh, throughout their nations, their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised. All right. If you have little kids, if you are 10 and under, you might not want to stop right now. I'm gonna have my cursor on this, and I'm gonna take it off when I'm done. Okay. Circumcised is when on a boy's private part, the skin gets cut off around it so he can urinate correctly. All right, I am done. So we're good. We're good. If you're 10 and under, you can listen again. And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be the sign of a covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male in your generations. He who is born in your house and brought with money from a foreigner who is not your descendant. He who is born in your house, so like 8 days old, he is circumcised. He is born among your house, and he who is bought with your money must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised from the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from the people. He has broken my covenant. Then God said to Abraham, and as Sarai your wife, her name will not be Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and I'll also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations, king of peoples shall be from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Okay. No, Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. So Abraham's going to have a baby with Sarah. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and I'll make him fruitful, and I'll multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at the same time next year. So the covenant is with Isaac, who's going to be Sarai and Abraham's son, not Hagar and Abraham's son. Sarah and Abraham's son, I'm sorry. And then he finished my covenant also, yeah, I already said that. And then he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very same day, as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham was, and Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very same day, Abraham was circumcised, and his son Ishmael. And all the men of his house born in a house bought with money or from a foreigner were circumcised with him. Okay, well, that is the end of this. I hope you learned some stuff. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye. Jesus rules.